Genesis Nation, please buckle up, grab your notepad, grab your pen. This is not a sit and eat popcorn and relax back. This is a heads down focus on this conversation. I am really, really excited for we became fast friends, mentor, mentee, geeking out on public speaking, influence, story selling, storytelling, persuasion, you name it. Mr. Roberto Monaco here with me today. I am super excited to be able to dive into your history of how you got into speaking, influence, persuasion, and also, more importantly, because we are on a chiropractic channel, is how important public speaking and influencing and education is. And I'm going to say ethical persuasion, because we're persuading people to take on a chiropractic lifestyle. So just for those of our listeners, first of all, thank you so much for putting your time into the chiropractic profession. We're going to put all your stuff underneath, from influencing from the front, your seminar on public speaking, as well as the chirospeakingcompany.com. But tell us, if you can share, how did you get into chiropractic?
Dr. Pierres, first of all, thanks so much for the invitation to chat. Love Genesis. Hello to the Genesis Nation. I start in speaking in 2002 with the Anthony Robbins companies. From 2008, I was doing around 400 talks a year representing Tony. Just like a chiropractor does a lunch and learn, for example, go in a company and do a stress talk. I was doing 3 times a day a talk, and instead of selling a consultation, I was selling Tony Robbins tickets for the Unleash the Power Within UPW, which is around $1,000 for the event. So very familiar with this whole idea about speaking and persuading people. And in 2009, opened up a company called Influencology, where I work with the 45 industries. And life was good. And then one day, one of my clients, his name is Gary Gunderson, calls me up and said, "Hey, you got to work with chiropractors." And I'm like, "What is chiropractic?" I had zero idea. Fast forward, I received an email from Dr. Chris Zano. At the time, he was seeing all 2,000 plus people. He said, "Hey, man, Gary referred to me, and I'm doing these dinners." He explained to me, dinner the doctor, closing 60%. Can you help me? I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And the way I was helping Dr. Chris, was the same way I was helping a financial planner. He sent me his talk. I broke down. This is working, this is not working. And we had a call. The very next dinner, he closed 88 out of 90 people. Wow. And I have this on testimonial, video testimonial. He calls me up and said, "I want to introduce you to every single chiropractor I know." And I'm like, "That's cool." Right?
Yeah, and he knows a lot. Yeah.
He knows a lot.
Yeah.
And right as that was going on, in my personal level, I had met my wife, and my wife was for almost 4 years. She stopped taking birth control pills, and her pill never came back. We went to 4 MDs, didn't get an answer. Eventually, Chris referred us to Dr. Ryan Hum in San Diego. We started chiropractic care, and the story. We had a natural birth. We had Sophia and Phoenix. Now I have 2 chiro babies, non-vaccinated kids, chiro kids. So I do feel that I owe chiropractic, in a sense of chiropractic has changed how myself, my wife, my kids see health. So for me, yes, do I make money? Of course. Do I have a company? Of course. But I think there is a purpose and a mission, because one of my pet peeves is chiropractors that don't speak, don't educate. Yeah. And that's like literally frustrating me, because I work outside chiropractic, and the vast majority of people, business people encounter, they're struggling with all kinds of conditions, diseases, they're sick, and they always see my name and chiropractic, like, "Why you work chiropractors?" They don't understand the idea. They think they put chiropractic in a box. So we have to be able to develop the influence, communication, storytelling muscle, and actually be proactive and tell the chiropractic story in your community. And very few chiropractors do.
Now, is that just, you're taking this beyond just table talk? you're talking about getting out into the community or getting online
Yeah,
and putting out there. Chiropractors are by trade, right? We're more passionate people. I consider you a chiropractor,
yeah,
even though
yeah,
you
yeah.
probably have done your fair share of adjustments without a license, whatever. But I'm cool with that. But we're more passionate people. We're more loving people and
Yeah.
physicians. Even the ones, even chiropractors that I met who are phenomenal business people, the ones that are the most successful in business are the ones who are the most passionate about chiropractic and the delivery of their service. So can you talk about love? Because I've read a lot of your stuff.
Mhm.
And one of the pieces that really struck me was how speaking from a place of love
Mhm.
really can help shift what we're trying to do. Because we obviously we don't have big pharma and the means, and there's some disjointed aspects of chiropractic. And I see you as a as glue for the profession. So hopefully you listeners out there can enlist Roberto to help our profession in general. But
So,
let's talk
so
about
let's talk
love.
about love. I want to talk about love, and I want to talk about getting your message out. One thing, I've been doing this for a long time. I started in 2002, so you do the math.
Yeah, that's a couple decades of
Yeah,
influencing. Yeah.
and I'll tell you, you're never gonna hear from me that speaking is easy,
Yeah.
ever, and you're never gonna hear to me that, man, it's a lot of work. I'm not gonna sugarcoat. It's easier to have an agency do an ad for you and you don't have to do anything. It's way easier,
Mhm.
way easier. But it's not the same thing. What happens is that Dan Kennedy, who is the father of marketing, or
Oh yeah.
any marketing guru that you follow, any,
Studied him.
most likely
Yeah.
studying under Kennedy. And then Kennedy said that one time he wants to figure out where his best paying clients came from. Was it direct mail? Was it TV? Was radio? Was the internet? Was email marketing? Was it talk? Where is the highest, best paying clients came from? Where do you think they came from?
Oh, this was a great. It's definitely the talk because there's
They came from the
engagement.
speaking
Like,
because is
yeah,
the first expression, is the
yes,
first, the experience, the power, the influence, the
yeah,
charisma, the commitment, the passion that you have to help people. And then, and that is kind of, is not that you shouldn't be doing ads or you shouldn't be doing email marketing. No, you should.
all
Right?
of it.
You should do, but like being able to lead your community and go to environments and educate and storytell, that is the job of the leader. And linking back to love, a lot of people, so why do we don't want to do it? You don't want to do it because one, is a little bit of work. Two, it is uncomfortable. You are going to be judged.
Yeah,
You are going to be judged.
yeah,
But I think that in the end of the day, if you truly love chiropractic and you love helping people, that's all it is. You're getting a message that you used to talk for years in your office every single day, and you take to your community. Lunch and lunch, dinner with the doctor, corporate lectures. There's advanced health seminars, and even Dr. Paris, it's crazy to think that all chiropractors understand PVA. They all understand retention. But out of 100, literally, and I know because when I go to associations, I ask this question. I ask, how many of you here are doing some type of patient orientation class where you take like an hour to really change people's belief systems, right? Mindsets. And I would say is less than 5%, right?
yeah,
So when you talk about communicating, ideally, yes, you want to teach the community, but you can start internally, right? With a class, and have your current patients bring their friends, the family members, make part of your process, and you start there. And then you can record a little video of you speaking and you put on social media, and your influence start growing. And I do feel that I learned this from my mom. My mom is my role model, unconditional love. And I feel like when we really truly love humanity, and you understand that in the end of the day, just like you or most of us, we have fears, we have goals, we have uncertainties, we have desires. The same thing happens to the people in your community. And when you start loving that part of your audience, without knowing them, and hopefully you love chiropractic, then that's the place you speak from, right? I think love will help you. If you come from a place of love, you'll be able to overcome fear of resistance. You're going to have a more proximity with people. Proximity is power, because at the end of the day, you don't have many filters, because in the end of the day, you're doing to serve them from a place of love.
Well, it's interesting because in your influencing from the front workshop, I'm gonna, I'm promoting you as well, because I think everyone in the chiropractic profession needs to be not just listening to this, but going to working with you, whether it's one-on-one or through your workshops. We talked about, when you're caught up in yourself, like that's like a telltale sign when you're like, oh, my hair doesn't look good, or I'm wearing the wrong shirt, or I'm sweating. Like when you can remove the constant microscope on yourself and realize what we're doing to serve and create. Can you give us a couple tips around that? Is there any tactical stuff?
What happened is when years ago, when I was promoting our class, in one of my first Facebook ad campaigns we launched, I recorded this video for chiropractors and put up there, and I saw someone commenting on, and I'm like, oh, someone commented on my ad, and I went to look at it. A doctor had called me clown, and he literally wrote the word clown, and I'm like, is that clown like in my blood, just like then I'm like, who is this person? I start like, I'm gonna find this person. I mean, literally, in my blood, I'm like, bro, you're being stupid. We don't need to do that. That's you cannot control. You really cannot control how people gonna judge you, perceive you. Judgment's gonna happen. I just realized it's gonna happen.
I think that's like the key point, like just toughening your skin and knowing that it's going to happen.
This is going to happen.
Serve. Just continue to share and serve.
For me, I come up with this rule. We all have rules, right? Because if you think about it, we have rules about rejection. We have rules about judgment. What has to happen for you to feel judged, right? For some people, if I ask this question, most likely you never thought about that. If I say, what has to happen for you to feel judged or rejected? And you'd be like, for some people, like, wow, everybody has a rule. So a lot of times it's about us, one, recognizing the rule that we have, and number two, like, for example, I'm going to be judged anyway. And number two, I actually wrote down this rule, and the rule said the ultimate form of judgment happens when someone that needs my help is willing to pay for my help, doesn't know I exist, right? Because in his or her mind, right, it's like, well, I never heard about this person. Because obscurity or being unknown, it is a type of judgment, right? Have you heard about this doctor? I never heard about it. Well, therefore, he or she is not that good, because if the person was really good, then I would have heard about this person, right? Think about that. You'd be like, have you heard about this person here? Nah, really? Nah, but now, because if the person is really good, really famous, then obviously I'll know about it. And the way for me to change obscurity, to change the perception of not knowing who I am, is my job to go and tell my story. So for me, once that click, like, you know what, there's a lot of chiropractors and other professions that they really don't know what I do or how I can help them. So it's my job to wake up every day and advocate. All right. Now, some people will like, some people won't like, but won't stop it. So this whole judgment piece, that's one angle. And the second angle is that it's all about focus, right? It's kind of like right now I'm recording here. I have this big light in my studio that you can see the shade here. And it is a metaphor. When you have a light in your face, sometimes the light's too bright, you can't see. And sometimes, metaphorically speaking, this light is the focus, what you're focusing on. And like you said before, people have the focus like, are they going to ask a question I don't know? I want to be judged. People say, man, I have a talk. What happens if MD is in the room? You know what I mean? Like, so, and so what? So that doesn't mean anything, right?
Right.
But they
Right.
start asking these questions, and the focus control feelings. And the key is to change the focus. Like, how can I serve? How can I create a bigger impact? How can I tell my story today? And just take massive action. I feel any chiropractor, and when you go and you build up a huge practice, so you know this. When you go from one level to another level and then another level, the higher you go, the more important communication is. Because if you are going to have an associate, if that's the goal, then you're going to be able to not only communicate effectively internally, but also externally. So our job truly is to adjust minds and spines. So we have to become.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and another thing too.
I'm gonna. I don't know if you put that on a T-shirt yet, but adjust minds and spines.
I know it's a good line, right?
Yeah, it
That's
is a good one.
line.
I like it. I like it.
And one thing, and I know you have this, was a pleasure to have in our class, and you're such a powerful presenter, buddy.
Thank you.
I can see that you love speaking. That's why you're so effective. You love it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is my ultimate goal, right? When I work with chiros, my ultimate goal is to make sure they love the act of speaking and talks, recording videos. Because if they got hooked, then, and if they love it, just like love chiropractic, then resistance, there's no more resistance, right? They're not trying to resist. So obviously, if you speak and you don't get the results that you want, then you won't love it. So
well, then you gotta hire a coach. So for myself, I absolutely love speaking. I love performing. It's, you know, I could dive into my whole history and the psychology of why, but sometimes it's facing that fear that excites me more. I don't know what excites me more, of like being up on stage and being terrified as shit. And sorry, Genesis Nation, but we can curse here, but it's that rush, you know, that hormonal rush of like, because I love influencing people for them to make a decision to help themselves just as much as I love the fear and that around that. What kind of tips can you give beginner speakers? Because every chiropractor could be served to become a better speaker, but in the beginning, like, how do we overcome those, you know, how do you learn to befriend fear?
They asked me, I'm actually doing a class coming up at Sherman in July now, public speaking class. If you know any students at Sherman, let them know I'm coming.
Doctors out there, Genesis Nation, please share this with your student friends.
Yes, they're going to be doing a talk at Sherman for the students, and they asked me this question in the interview. I would say is say yes to presentation opportunities, right? What I mean by that is, let's say you have I'm not doing a class in my office, and I have a small office and sits 5 people. Guess what? I'm going to do a talk for 5 people, right? I say yes. I'm going to listen to Dr. Paris. Dr. Paris talk about marketing, recording a video. You speak, you can start small, go big. Literally, you don't need to go to speak in front of 100 people. You can start small, go big, and you build your confidence, you build a skill. Number 2, so that's not the first thing, is start small, go big. Start where you are today. I mean, literally today. Don't overthink it. The other thing I would say is, health is a outside-in game or inside-out game?
It's an inside out. Health is an inside out game. Yes.
Thank you very much.
But society sees it as an outside in game.
Very good.
That's where the educational piece comes in.
100%. Right. So health, we know, is inside out game. Good communication is not outside in, is an inside out game. Right. So a lot of people they look externally and they go, I want to borrow this person PowerPoint. I want to borrow this person PowerPoint, which is okay in the beginning when you're learning, but ultimately, you should be looking internally. You should look like, how do you see chiropractic? What's your personal connection with chiropractic? Can you tell me a patient stories? Why do you love chiropractic so much? how do you see chiropractic care and overall? It's like so many of us are so focused on what my coach did, and I want to do exactly what my coach did, called modeling. At some point, there are some benefits. It's kind of like playing guitar. If I want to play guitar, what the first thing they do, you buy those little magazines and you learn how to play, code play on YouTube. But eventually you graduate it, and eventually you're going to have your own. Right? So it's okay to have a coach PowerPoint or something, but in the end of the day, what makes the presentation powerful is when you go inside out and you look for your stories, and you create your own meaning. Let me give an example. I had this Cairo one time approach me, say, hey, I want to talk to you. I'm doing this dinners, not converting, my conversion is terrible. So we jump on a call. He said, hey man, I bought this course on how to do a dinner the doctor presentation, XYZ, right? By the way, I knew the course because I had to help the guy do the course, right? So I say, so tell me what's going on. Oh, my conversion is terrible, right? And I had one question. I said, because he said, I'm saying exactly the same thing this doctor's saying, right? I just had one question. I said, how much do you believe on the things you're saying? And then he said like 70%. I was like, oh, okay. So you have your answer. You have your answer. Right?
And the audience can feel that authenticity.
100%. Right?
And even like that person who goes up and says, like, look, I'm scared being up here. Like that shows their vulnerability, or it shows like, okay, this is my first time speaking.
Yes.
And I'm scared.
Yeah, which is okay. Vulnerability is super powerful. So in the end of the day, I think there is the right balance, right? Like, for example, I have classes that I recorded. I give my clients PowerPoints. I do the heavy lifting for them. I do the close, but I always tell them, look, this is how I would present. I want to make this your own. Right? That's my rule. And then I always look in communication. For me, great communication is a inside out game. Right?
Love it. So there's so much we can dive into. What about, we could go on forever here because I just geek out. So there's two things I want to chat about. I'm categorizing them in my own brain, but just as a summary of what we just went over, I think it's overlooked how important, I'm going to use the term contemplation, or thinking about what you're going to talk about, plays a role. Because I've worked with you as a coach, and we spent the first 3 sessions just talking and taking notes and peeling apart and trimming fat and literally like just moving stuff out of the way. Okay, that story makes sense. This is not really from you. This is from somebody else. So I think that's like a soft skill that you possess, obviously, by doing this for a long time. And I think, just as a tidbit out there for those of you preparing a speech or a talk, like you got to put the time and effort into just thinking versus just the mechanics. And then I'm also hearing actually embody it, make it your own, even if you're borrowing or modeling in the beginning. It's okay. So as a question here, storytelling, story selling, like storytelling is biological. It's neurobiological for humans, right? We've been passing just all aspects of being human in front of the fire since we were wearing loincloths.
It's a survival mechanism.
Yes. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of implementing storytelling?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have a quote that I say, great public speaking starts with intense private thinking, right? So great public speaking starts with intense private thinking, right? So it's kind of like, that's why the first, by the way, I want to give you credit to you, man. You did that, the presentation that you sent to me was fantastic for the chiropractors. Fantastic, right? And when you spoke, I believe, like for 7 minutes. But but the first hour, you say, hey, tell me a little bit about, you had like a 45-minute, like, okay, and we have 3 Hollywood movies right here, buddy. We have a Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we turned it into a 7-minute trailer. And that's
Yeah,
it.
so I mean, like, what? So it's not it's work, it's work. But then but the final
Intense
product was
private thinking. I love
yeah,
it.
yeah. So we did a lot of that. We were like, and then we cut the fat. We make sure it's congruent. We make sure it's powerful. So that's kind of like so that's one thing. Now for me, storytelling, like literally this morning, I am so one of my clients, he was a consultant for a top, the Bain Consulting, McKinsey, the top consulting firms.
Yep.
And now he has a gigantic company where he teach people how to become consultants, get a job at these consulting firms, right? And he's based in Taiwan.
Yes.
And we talk about YouTube videos, and the conversation was back and forth. He goes, well, when people are looking to get a consulting job, I gotta be straight to the point. You know what I mean? I have to, and then I'll say this, I just gotta give the facts, And I said, man, facts alone are not gonna move people. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you have to be able to tell the story, to create context, to create an emotion, to reduce resistance, and then you give the facts. 99% of a business professionals, they suck at storytelling because they think they have the limited belief of their myth, just like the myth that people have, like health is not inside out, it's outside in. I take a pill. They think if I'm just giving the facts alone, I will there'll be enough. I shared this video, and I don't know if you want to share this video. It's a 3-minute video. But basically in Brazil, there's a great point, this great video where I tell the story. For many, many years, organ donation in Brazil was terrible. Nobody can donate organs in Brazil. Did they want to donate organs in Brazil? So people are dying because didn't have hearts, didn't have it, right? And in America, you can put in a driver's license. Right? I want to donate my organs. And in Brazil, we don't have that. So it's even more challenging because when someone passes, the hospital call the relatives who are like grieving, say, hey, you want to donate the organs, right? So now they got the best minds in marketing, in influence, and they say, well, let's make these people hero, right? If you donate to become a hero, change someone's life, the noblest thing you can do, nothing happens, right? And then they decided to ask a different question. They said, what are Brazilians really passionate about? Well,
football,
soccer. So then they develop a story, literally. And the story develops like, look, if you donate your organs, you can become a fan, a soccer fan for the rest of your life. You become immortal. So they launched this campaign, right? And they say now, when you donate your eyes, your people will be able to see your team playing. When you donate your heart,
after you pass,
after you pass, bro, they literally they solved the donation problem in Brazil.
That's awesome.
One campaign, 56,000 people in a club donate.
And just tweaking the story.
The story, right? Yeah, so the story, there's like this. I buy into that story. So when people, and that is the power, because now they connected, right? The story we tell connected to what's important to them. So the whole idea about being able to, number one, use storytelling and finding the right story is literally one of the most powerful forms of influence. I spend so much time on my work, even in my personal life. I go through my day. At the end of the day, I pause and reflect. Do I have any story that happened to me today? Literally. And I have a database.
Stories.
And I write it. Why? Because when I find a good story, for me, the feeling, literally, I feel like Christmas morning, I got a huge present. And I start laughing already. Why? Because I'm going to use that 1,000 times.
Well, and
Really.
it's, you know, if for those of you who have seen Roberto, or when you go to your
Yeah.
influencing from the front, you share. I'm going to have you share a story when we finish, but not yet. I'm not done yet. I got a couple more questions, but it's so cool to see how your brain works, because you can rip out a story in relationship to the question that's asked, or
Mhm.
an opening or a closing.
Yeah.
That's a good tip in itself. Just start, intense private thinking, and
Yeah.
also, not categorizing, but really just like notating. All right, I had a really funny interaction at a coffee
Yeah.
shop today.
Exactly.
How does that, and then start thinking and pulling apart, how does that relate to
Yeah.
how I can teach a patient to take care of themselves
Yeah.
inside out versus outside in.
Yeah.
Charisma, you obviously have it, right?
Yeah.
You have it naturally, and you also have trained it. Is charisma purely genetic? Is it epigenetic? Can we train to become more charismatic? Can we develop charisma?
Yeah. Charisma is your innate potential, and I borrowed that word innate from chiropractic. Right? I'm not that smart, so I copy.
Me
So
too.
charisma,
Me too,
I borrowed from
right?
chiropractic.
Yes.
So
I borrow from
charisma,
everybody. Okay.
I'd say,
I borrow from everybody. I borrow from you.
yeah. So it's your innate potential to attract, engage, and influence someone. We all have it, right? So we all have the innate potential. So the first step is eliminating like some of the myth about charisma, right? Well, people say, "Well, I'm not charismatic," or "I have to be speak loud and move a lot to be charismatic." That's not true, because what they found is that charisma. There's different kinds of charismatic leaders. For example, there's a great book if you guys want to read. It's called The Charisma Myth. Is a professor from Harvard, when she talks about the different charisma, the different traits. And she talks about Mother Teresa, Oprah being charismatic, and talk about Tony Robbins being charismatic. So different kinds of charisma. But charisma is something that we always can develop. So one thing one of the techniques that I use is that one of the traits of charismatic leaders and speakers is presence, which means that when they're talking to you on camera or face to face, the viewer feels like they're talking. Oh, Roberto is just connecting to me right now, right? So, but like you don't have a busy mind. So one of the things that I do, I go in before I record a video. I close my eyes. I think about someone that I love, someone that I know wants me to be successful, and I visualize that person. And then I inhale. I count to 5. I hold 5, then exhale 5. I go like this. I go. Right, so I do a couple of times, and then when I my eyes and I'm connecting, I'm just talking to that person right here. I'm visualizing that person, and I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm collected, and I'm present, and it brings this really powerful aura and energy, right? So charisma, there's different traits, and presence is one of them.
That's great. And we even practiced at your boot
Yeah,
camp.
yeah,
And you'd be surprised, and I know you're not surprised at this, but your listeners, like, next presentation you give or speech, we did 3 seconds on one person, not eyes contact, but like eye contact, and I
yeah.
focused like left eye,
Oh
left
yeah,
eye,
oh
but
yeah.
looking around the audience and trying to hold for 3 seconds. But it was a really cool experiment, because everyone would raise their hands, and then when they felt like they were present or connected to the speaker,
Yeah.
you put your hand down. But it's like just having that experience. So we could go on forever, but and also I want our listeners to, I invite every one of our listeners to watch all your videos, go to your boot camps, and just so we can, improve, just so you can improve your own speaking ability and the ability to influence from your table, influence your staff, influence as a leader in the community. So can you close us out with a story?
closing out the story, put me in a spot. Now my
Of
brain's
course,
searching.
I know. I like the zebra story.
I'm thinking about the one. So there's a lady. You see what? But I just did the presentation technique. I gotta share this. I'm gonna open up the curtains. So he put me. By the way, for those who are listening, he put me on the spot, so I didn't have a story to close.
Nope, you did
So
not.
then, and I'm like, my brain was searching, right? So what I did, instead of like being here, I'm like, I don't know. What I did, I got my drink, and went like this. I just did it. If you rewind the video, just watch. I did this.
Yes.
And I'm like,
So
okay, I got
basically,
it.
you're saying taking the sip of coffee gave you your own ability to pause
Exactly.
while,
Yeah. So,
while being put on the spot.
yeah.
So whether
Yeah.
it's
So,
water,
yeah.
coffee, whatever it is.
Yeah. So, like for example, if you have when you're doing a talk, I always have coffee or have a glass of water. I actually have this in my life, workshops. So if I ever forget something or someone put me in a spot, I really go like, that's a good question.
Well, it's great because it's a natural pause instead of you like fumbling on like a tick or
exactly.
Awesome. Love it.
So there's the lady who her job was to walk to the village every day. She walked towards the village, and she went to get two jars, go to the river, get water, and come back to the village. That's her job. So every day she wakes up in the morning, walk a mile, 2 jars, flood the water, and come back to the village to bring water back to the village. And she did that for years. Now, one day, one of the jars had a big crack on it. And that jar looked at the lady and said, "Lady, I'm sorry. I've been letting you down. I know you're working really hard. Every day you go to the river, get water. By the time you come back, because I have this big defect on it, I allow half the water spill all over the floor. I'm sorry, I'm not perfect." And the lady looked at the jar and said, "I have known about that for many years. That's why I have planted seeds. And the water that you allow spill all over the floor falls all over the seeds, and the seeds become flowers. And the flowers now I'm able to sell them on my flower shop and make money to provide my family." And she said, "You're perfect the way you are. Guys, you are perfect the way you are. I wanna wish you a phenomenal blast day. Thanks so much, Dr. Paris, for the invitation. Much love to the Genesis Nation here."
Yes. Thank you, Roberto. Thank you, Genesis Nation, for tuning in. And this one is a keeper. Watch it again. Find Roberto. We'll have everything down below. I love you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
and
my
appreciate
bro.
your influence and everything you're doing for the profession, and me personally, Genesis as well. So, all right, man. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.